From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. Venezuelan and Palestinian presidents have agreed to start a binational bank to be kickstarted with 20 million petros, Venezuela's cryptocurrency. The bank aims to fund technological and industrial initiatives between the two countries. President Nicolas Maduro and Mahmoud Abbas also agreed to establish a Venezuela-Palestine Business Council to expand economic, banking, trade, and financial cooperation. Maduro urged continued solidarity with the Palestinian people and state, saying that more should be done to stop the massacre of Palestinians.
When it comes to the Palestinian cause, we don't play. Palestine has true friends here in Venezuela, loyal friends, and the Arab people must know that they have a revolutionary government, a true friend to advance the future of a united Arab world, an Arab world in peace, an Arab world rebuilt, with a free Palestine, sovereign, independent. Soon I'll be in Palestine. Before year's end, I'll be in Palestine.
Samuel Moncada, Venezuela's ambassador to the United Nations, says the United States will fail in their attempt to insult Latin America. His comments come in response to U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, who has urged leaders to impose sanctions on Venezuela until President Nicolas Maduro leaves office. Moncada recalled Article 20 of the OAS Charter, where any kind of foreign pressure is forbidden. He also accused the U.S. government of extortion, threatening the region, and humiliating its members. Moncada called on Latin American governments to respond with dignity and reject threats of foreign intervention.
Today, the Vice President of the United States comes here to commit an international crime, violating the OAS and UN charters. And people applaud him, and he even says he does it in the name of God. I want to respond to the US Vice President, who represents the most racist and intolerant government of this continent in the last decades. The most aggressive and humiliating in the region. It's hard to remember a president that has insulted the region so much. President Trump has used the most denigrating words to refer to member countries of this organization. I won't repeat those insults here, but he's done it, and you all know it.
Pence also said the United States will impose new sanctions on Venezuela and continue to put pressure on the country's government. He went on to encourage countries in the region to suspend Venezuela from the OAS and to take measure against the government of Nicolas Maduro.
They can give us all the sanctions they want. We're a free country. We have freedom in our blood. Here is the people of Chavez. The people of Venezuela are fighting and alert to the call of our president. And on May 20th, we will all head out to vote. To the international community, they have to understand that this is reality, that we love Venezuela, that we know that we are rich, and that's why they want to sanction us. I'm part of a jobs program, and I'm proud of this country, and we will always support our president.
To talk more about this and about the coming presidential election, we go live to our correspondent, Ian Bruce, in Caracas. Hello, Ian. What have been the first reactions after U.S. Vice President Mike Pence's remarks and announcements at the OAS?
Yes, indeed, Steffi, more harsh words from the U.S. Vice President Mike Pence against Venezuela at the Organization of American States. No surprise there. He called on the Bolivarian government to suspend the elections on the 20th of May. That's in spite of the fact that clearly many opposition supporters in Venezuela want to vote on the 20th of May, and also in spite of the fact that thousands, many thousands of Venezuelans took part in that rehearsal on Sunday, and they clearly trust their electoral system. The government's response has been quite muted, apart from that response from the ambassador Samuel Moncada, which we heard earlier. President Maduro, for example, at a campaign event yesterday, made a general reference to the aggressive attitude of the United States, but didn't mention Mike Pence. what he did concentrate on, and this is in a way the government's response, was his call for a new broad national dialogue as soon as and when he wins those elections on the 20th of May. He said he wants to include all of the opposition in this new dialogue, and he said he's already spoken to the president of the Dominican Republic, Danilo Medina, for him to host those talks. Now, this is quite ambitious because you will recall that at the beginning of February, the government and the traditional opposition parties came very, very close to an agreement in Santo Domingo. Everybody thought they were about to sign. We were told they were about to sign, and at the last minute, the opposition decided it wouldn't sign the agreement which had been drawn up. The government alleged that they'd received a phone call from the United States and which told them not to sign the agreement. So an attempt to restart that dialogue certainly won't be easy, but Maduro said he's prepared to go do whatever it takes to bring and secure peace in Venezuela.
Now, Ian, what can you tell us about the support opposition candidate Henry Falcón is expecting to get?
This is very interesting, Steffi, because Henry Falcón, the main opposition candidate who did decide to run, the rest of the traditional parties, of course, are calling for a boycott. He really does seem to be making some ground now. And we're expecting, yesterday we had a group of opposition members of the National Assembly from different parties who came out saying they would be backing Falcón in spite of what their party's leaderships are saying. Today, we're expecting one of the other presidential candidates, Luis Alejandro Ratti, well, we don't know, this is not confirmed, but he and Falcón have called a joint press conference later this morning, and everybody's supposing that that means that Ratti will come out in support of Falcón. Now, Ratti himself has very little support, in fact, so little that on the last Hinterlasses poll just over a week ago, his support didn't even register. But symbolically, it's important because the possibility of moving towards a single opposition candidate against President Maduro is what is one of the factors that's feeding the aspirations and the hopes of opposition supporters. There's already been talks between Ratti and the third place candidate, Javier Bertucci. Both of them are evangelical Christians. They could come together. And if both of them came together with Falcón, symbolically and practically in terms of support, that would be quite a significant move.
Ian, thank you so much for your information. That was our correspondent Ian Bruce, live from Caracas. More story now. And on Monday, President Nicolas Maduro spoke at a campaign rally at the Poliedro of Caracas. He talked about the importance of strengthening the public education system and warned about the right wing's plan to privatize it.
El futuro de la educación pública.
The future of a public education, free and of high quality in the country. The right wing, oligarchical, pro-imperialist, proposes to surrender the country to the International Monetary Fund. And the International Monetary Fund's first task when it enters a country is to eliminate public education, to privatize education.
Cuba is hosting a session of the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, or ECLAC, in which delegates from over 20 countries will discuss issues including sustainable development and inequality. The Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, is already in Cuba and has met Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel to congratulate him on his new position. He also paid tribute to Cuban national hero José Martí.
José Martí is not just a Cuban hero, he is a hero for all the progressive movements across the world. So this tribute has a very special meaning to me. We would like to live in a world in which his values, in which freedom are values for all human beings.
The delegates marked Cuba's National Day with a forum in the Convention Palace of Havana. During the meeting, leaders will present a new development plan for the region.
Alicia Bárcena, the Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, or ECLAC, said that they will support Cuba during its own sovereign road of development. During the first day of this session's period, the Commission recognized the value of the Cuban Revolution for the articulation of economic and social development policies, in spite of limitations caused by the U.S. blockades.
Each year, we are the ones who prepare everything for the Secretary General to present the costs of the blockade against Cuba. This has been so important that almost every country, except one or two, are against the blockade that has been so terrible and unfair for Cuba's society.
Some experts think that the commercial war in Havana waged by the US administration brings a difficult overall picture for the Cuban economy. They say that in the last 3 years, the disappearance of progressive governments has caused an increase in unemployment, poverty, and debt with international financial institutions.
I think that neoliberalism has shown us again how efficient it is at producing poverty. This only forces us to keep fighting. There is no other way. We must awaken our people again to defend their rights and to improve the economy.
Those who attended the ECLAC Forum also spoke about the necessity for Southern cooperation for development. They talked about international cooperation projects in Cuba for health, culture and education, as ways to create a new kind of economic relationship for future development.
There is not a poor country that doesn't have something to share, nor a rich country that doesn't need the knowledge of another. What we need is to make people understand that. I think Cuba is an example of this for everything it has done for global education.
Many nations also defended multilateralism and cooperation not defined by the United States.
Judge Carolina Levos has denied members of the regional group Mercosur permission to visit jailed former President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva at the police headquarters in Curitiba, where he's being held. A Mercosur Human Rights Commission filed a request to visit Lula on April 27th in order to investigate the conditions in which the former president is being held. Police in Brazil have confirmed that student and LGBTI activist Mateus Passarelli was killed in Rio de Janeiro. Mateus, who identified as gender neutral, was reported missing by friends and family on April 29th. According to the police, a 21-year-old activist was killed by criminals in a favela north of the city on Sunday. Passarelli was last seen leaving a party after saying goodbye to friends. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Carlos Alvarado will take office as the new president of Costa Rica during a ceremony at Plaza de la Democracia in San Jose. 7 presidents from the region were invited to his inauguration. Our correspondent Fernando Francia has the latest from San Jose.
Everything is ready for the presidential inauguration that will take place this Tuesday. Luis Guillermo Solís will hand over the presidency to Carlos Alvarado. Carolina Hidalgo, president of the Legislative Assembly, will take Alvarado's oath of office. Hidalgo was elected head of the Assembly on May 1st. Before taking oath, Alvarado will meet with members of his cabinet, and together they will go to la Plaza de la Democracia, where the ceremony is set to start at around 9 in the morning. 7 presidents were invited to take part of this inauguration, among them the Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno and the Bolivian President Evo Morales. Later on, the new president will meet with an international delegations invited to the ceremony and also attend a concert played by local musicians. Alvarado is also expected to announce his first decrees, with which his 4-year term as the 48th president of Costa Rica will officially begin.
Thank you, Fernando, for that report. Democratization of land, expanding education, and fighting climate change are the 3 priorities of Colombian presidential candidate Gustavo Petro for bringing peace and social justice to his country. In an interview with Telesur, the left-wing candidate highlighted the importance of changing the current production model to achieve a fair society. He also addressed the risk of political fraud in the electoral process, but said Colombian people understand the importance of voting. According to the latest polls, Petro and his opponent, Iván Duque, are almost neck and neck in the presidential race. The election will be on the 27th of May.
In my opinion, in the 21st century, the great division politicians face across the world is the one caused by climate change. That divides us in 2 sides. One side is the one made up of people, forces, governments, parties, social organizations, globally or locally, that support life and are looking for a change of pattern in matters such as culture, consumption, technology, progress.
That you support.
I support them, yes. And then we have another side, the side of the economic powers, linked to oil and coal.
Ellos ligados al tema del petróleo y el carbón. En Colombia siempre ha habido fraude.
There has always been electoral fraud in Colombia, and the main one, the one that happens more often, is the one linked to the purchasing of votes.
Do you think it will also happen in these elections?
Of course, there's a lot of money involved in the purchasing of votes, especially the votes of the poor people. The good thing is that nowadays people with economic needs are thinking it twice before giving their votes away, because they would prefer to use their vote to elect someone who can make a real change.
Colombian authorities are tightening security around ex-president and Senator Álvaro Uribe after the Colombian Interior Minister announced there were threats against him.
The information we have was shared with ex-President Uribe and the National Unity for Protection, and the National Police took immediate measures to tighten the security network around ex-President Álvaro Uribe.
The Colombian government expects to move forward with the peace accord signed with the FARC. Authorities are also resuming the talks with the National Liberation Army, or ELN, in the new host country, Cuba.
President Juan Manuel Santos delivered a report on Saturday about the meeting with the Commission of Promotion and Verification for the peace agreement. He highlighted the role that 8.6 million victims of the armed conflict have had.
The victims have been the backbone of this process of respect for human rights, the right for the truth, the right for justice and for this to never happen again. This has been a very important part of the negotiation.
The reintegration of former combatants, the demining, and the legislative developments for the implementation of the agreement have also been part of the agenda.
We made a balance on the legislation, the constitutional, legal and institutional reforms, so the state can honor the agreement. We have made great progress and we still have 7 laws left in the Congress that are urgent.
Rodrigo Londoño, leader of the FARC political party, assured that they are talking about the important issues to move the implementation of the agreement forward.
We have made a report about the process and what has been achieved, which is quite a lot, and the difficulties that remain. We have taken decisions to join forces along the forces in Colombia that want the process to advance. We also have the support of the international community to accelerate the implementation of the agreement in Havana.
Social leaders confirmed that they are accompanying the implementation of the agreement with the FARC, but also the talks with the ELN in order to achieve peace in Colombia.
The challenge has always been assuring society's participation, and us, as part of Colombian society and social movements, have made a lot of effort for a long time to have a key role in the peace process.
At the end of the meeting, this letter from the former Uruguayan president, José Pepe Mujica, sent to Jesús Santrich from the FARC political party, was revealed. He stated his concern about his delicate state of health and the capture in order to extradite him. He also made a call on the government to comply with and safeguard those who were behind the peace process in Colombia, including social leaders.
And also in Colombia, human rights activist and Senator Iván Cepeda, along with former politician Álvaro Leiva, have published an open letter to FARC member Jesús Santrich, asking him to end his hunger strike. They asked him to continue living to build a stronger peace. Santrich was arrested on April 9th at the request of the U.S. government for alleged drug trafficking and has been on a hunger strike since then. Weeks later, he was taken to a hospital in Bogotá, where he still remains. More stories now. Preliminary results from Lebanon's parliamentary elections on Monday suggested that the Iran-backed Hezbollah group and its political allies would secure a simple majority. Hezbollah, along with allied groups and individuals, secured at least 67 seats, according to preliminary results. The number of Hezbollah lawmakers has remained at around 13. The leader of Hezbollah said that results would guarantee the protection of the resistance.
There is a great political, parliamentary, and moral victory for the resistance. The people of the resistance, the environment of the resistance, for the strategic choice, which protects the country, the sovereignty of the country. This was achieved in these elections, thanks to God.
The foreign ministers of Germany and France have pledged to stand by the Iran nuclear deal in the case of the United States withdrawal. During a joint press conference in Berlin, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas said that Germany, France, and the United Kingdom were dedicated to maintaining the deal, which they see as bringing more security to the world. Maas warned against a risk of escalation were the deal invalidated. May 12th is the deadline by which U.S. President Donald Trump either has to issue new waivers to suspend U.S. sanctions against Iran or exit the nuclear deal. Meanwhile, UK Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson is in the U.S. and met with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to appeal once more to Donald Trump not to scrap the deal. Speaking to U.S. network Fox News, he said Trump was right to see flaws in the deal, but, quote, Plan B does not seem to be particularly well developed at this stage. President Trump said in a tweet on Monday that he would announce his decision on whether to withdraw from the deal on Tuesday. Trump has threatened to withdraw from the deal, which provided Iran with relief from sanctions in exchange for limiting its uranium enrichment capacity, unless European signatories to the accord fix what he has called its shortcomings. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has said that a U.S. withdrawal from the deal would be okay if others stay. He made comments to the Administrative Development and Elite Council in Mashtad on Monday.
If what we want from the JCPOA will be provided and guaranteed by non-Americans, well, U.S.'s withdrawal will be okay. A problem has been removed from this deal. Someone will leave that has always caused trouble, and if all of what we have in mind is not fulfilled, we have our own plan, our legal and logical path, and our own programming.
After a month of protests in Armenia, the country has a new prime minister. Here's more on that and other stories making headlines from around the world.
Armenia's parliament has elected opposition leader Nikol Pashinyan as the new prime minister. Pashinyan has led anti-government rallies across the country since last month. The appointment comes 2 weeks after long-term politician Sir Sargsyan resigned following anti-government demonstrations. Armenia has been without a leader since April 23rd, and thousands of people have been on the streets protesting.
Dear colleagues, I thank you for this vote and for your stance. I only want to say the following. I will serve to the people of the Republic of Armenia. I will serve to the Republic of Armenia. Thank you.
Hundreds of people have gathered outside the Hungarian parliament to protest against the election of Viktor Orbán as the prime minister for the third term. Orbán won re-election last month after his anti-immigration campaign message secured a strong majority among voters. He won 133 of 199 seats in the parliament, which enables him to pass laws unopposed. Protesters accuse him of removing democratic checks and balances and is steering the country away from the European mainstream. Italy's coalition-building talks have failed 2 months after the general elections. This leaves the country with two options: either face fresh elections or have a neutral caretaker government until the end of the year. This follows the success of the populist Five-Star movement, which won the 30% of the vote but could not agree on joining forces either with the right-wing alliance of Forza Italia and the League or with the center-left Democratic Party.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. These and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.